Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is me, Ms. Rhonda B., coming to you from Voices of Mass Discussion. We are here once again. We're still in the political season, and that 2nd District Congressional seat is a hot, hot ticket. So we have, believe it or not, a couple of Republicans that's running for the seat. We've had the pleasure of meeting one of the gentlemen that's seeking the seat, and so we want to give a version of all sides as to what's going on. We know on the Democratic side we have Debbie Howardson, and of course the incumbent that's in office now, Jesse Jackson. But we also have a gentleman from the far south suburban area. We want him to get an opportunity to share with us, first of all, how far the district actually travels, and some of the things that he sees that he could bring to the district, and how he feels the south suburban region is being recognized and treated during as a Congress since things have changed. So, Mr. James Taylor, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. Neil, can you educate us a little bit, because you're running for the U.S. Congressional seat in the 2nd District. So, and you're from the Kankakee area.
That's correct.
Is Kankakee like newly part of that?
Yes, it is. It was when they redistricted the 2nd District. They put Kankakee, we're the southernmost point in the new district.
Okay, so this will be the first time that they'll be voting for whoever the particular congressperson will be.
In the 2nd District, that's
right.
correct.
So they were, what district were you guys before?
The 11th.
Oh, you were the 11th district, and that former, who was the Congress at that point?
Adam Kinzinger.
Okay, Kinzinger, which is currently in office.
Yes.
Is he currently in office? Okay, so that's where, is that the seat that Howardson at one point had?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so then now the people in your area will bring in new representation, but obviously new people because they haven't represented the area. So what do you see as some of the challenges, or tell us a little bit how you decided to get in the race, other than the fact of the change?
Actually, the reason I decided is I had worked quite closely with Adam to get him elected. Okay. And when the district changed, he decided that he would not run, and we discussed it, and I decided that in order to have what we would think would be a fair representation of our community, that I would run.
Okay. So he decided that since that's not going to be his district anymore, he wasn't going to switch over and then now run for the 2nd.
He's going to run in another district.
I mean, I'm just saying, but he wasn't going to switch over and run to the 2nd. Okay. So now, in order for you to be eligible, obviously that means residentially you're in that district as well. So what are you seeking to bring to the area, or do you feel that he was representing well that you want to see continue?
Well, what I'd like to see is that our area maintain its identity. Mm-hmm. We went from a pretty rural area in the 11th to a rural and very urban area when you consider the fact that we go from Kankakee to Lake Michigan. Okay. And demographics changed quite a bit. Once we began to examine the 2nd District, one of the things that we discovered is that the congressman, at this time Reverend Jackson's son, mm-hmm. Jesse Jr., mm-hmm. wasn't really accessible to the people in the other districts. As a matter of fact, the Reverend Marcus Lewis was down to my office, my newspaper office last week, with maybe 15 people mm-hmm. wanting to talk to me about issues that they had not been able to address with the congressman over a period of the last 4 years. Okay. You know, and I assured them that if I were elected, that I would look into it. Okay. But you know, that's quite a ways down the road.
So that would be an area of concern, because if you're not accessible for those that you're currently representing, then those who you don't even know yet, then I could see people getting a little concerned about that.
Right. What we have here, strategically speaking, is a situation where the votes in the district are pretty much divided, in the 2nd District are pretty much divided along racial lines. Mm-hmm. If you probably are aware of the fact that there was a group of ministers who were backing Congressman Jackson mm-hmm. recently, who made some statements that they felt that the primary election in the Democratic Party was being impacted by some demonic issues. Mm-hmm. If you look at the 2nd District, you would notice that there's a major religious group with national offices in the 2nd District. Mm-hmm. And over the years, they've printed a newspaper as well as many speeches over the years, Founders Day and that, where white people are considered as devils. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take a great leap in intelligence to figure that this minister was saying that Debbie Halverson mm-hmm. was that demonic force, that mm-hmm. devil, that white devil. Mm-hmm. Knowing Debbie as I do, because I've run the newspaper in Kankakee for 40 years. Right, right. And have had a chance to work with her on some issues and opposed to her on some, as I'm a Republican. Mm-hmm. But the woman certainly is not a devil. Right, right. And those statements, that kind of politics, that racial politics, that mm-hmm. divisive kind of politics, mm-hmm. that Reverend Jackson's son, and I keep emphasizing
Right.
Reverend Jackson's son because that's how I met Jesse Jr. as Reverend Jackson's
Jackson's
son
son.
when he was much younger. And I'm surprised that he didn't denounce those statements. It just seemed to be a natural thing. But in the overall, he also made a statement which I found very interesting, and that was that Debbie, in another radio and TV commercial, that she was crazy because she had not voted with President Obama all the time. And I love my brother, but I don't think my brother is right all the time. And if his idea of representation is to rubber stamp everything that President Obama says, then I got problems with that. As a resident, as a citizen, I think that there's some similarities between what they do off the record as well as on the record. It took quite a bit for President Obama to denounce the statements that Reverend Wright was making, but at least he finally did. Maybe Jesse Jr. will finally denounce the statements that these ministers made.
You know what, I want to add something about that, because there's a little bit difference, in my opinion, between Reverend Wright, the presidential election, and that being denounced, as opposed to what the ministers recently said about Debbie Hamilton. Because Reverend Wright, those were snippets of speeches that he gave independent of Obama, the election, and all of that. And then, of course, it became a campaign issue. So that's a little bit different than the minister went up there purposely and specifically to make that statement against an opponent.
I understand your point. I guess what I look at is the overall significance of what a person says and how it represents where they're coming from.
Right.
And I would not want to be associated in any way with either one of those situations.
Right.
As a politician who claims to represent everybody.
As a politician, like I said, but I still just wanted and I'm not a big fan of Reverend Wright, you know, by any circumstances, but I just, there's a total difference than the minister getting up there specifically targeting your opponent, as opposed to Reverend Wright's situation was, in my opinion, much more innocent, because he was giving his opinion to his congregation about what he felt was wrong with the war, and it was independent of Obama. You know, there's no indication that Obama was even in the services when he made those statements. So it's not the same to expect him to have to announce somebody who has an opinion, because we are in a free country.
I understand, and I understand what you're saying.
But I agree with you guys saying about Harrelson and the minister. Perhaps they should have denounced that, because it was very, very specific towards her, which is unfair and sort of unprofessional.
I want to say this, and then I guess we'll just have our own opinion.
Agree to disagree on that.
I would not go to a church many times where they had certain statements being said. I would not go listen to Louis Farrakhan speak about many things many times without having formed a conclusion that I won't go back.
Right. I know, that's what I say. That's what, yeah, and I agree with, like I said, with the minister, with Debbie. I just don't agree with the Reverend Wright situation, because there's no indication that Obama was even there to have heard those statements at the time they were made. I too have gone to Trinity often. I, you know, love to hear Reverend Wright speak, and I wouldn't have personally denounced him, because I feel he's entitled to his opinion. And then the same way with the example of Farrakhan, I mean, I go to hear him speak often. And he definitely, and you know that, right? He definitely says some things that I don't agree with.
Let's do this. Can we agree that perhaps Reverend Jackson should have denounced the statement?
Okay, that's
how we work.
I'll agree with that one,
right.
But because it was specific.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with you on
that. Now, you know, and you're the newspaper man, so that you know, don't start talking to me about somebody don't have a right to give an opinion.
Yeah, I know.
You know, that gets me way going. You think I was running for office, we want to go there.
You're a good person.
Nah, I can't run anything but my mouth. So so tell me a little bit more about your platform.
Well, basically, I'm a conservative, as you know, slow to act, but I'm determined once I act. Yeah. I believe that part of our problem with this country is that we have made some bad choices in terms of priorities. One of the sticklers that I have has to do with foreign aid. I am amazed at our policies that we continue to give to countries, but we never seek any kind of repayment. Then our military and foreign policy began to merge when we look at situations like Iraq, which have great resources, natural resources. The country was being dominated by a man who would kill everybody that said anything that he didn't like. So we go in, we take and we give this country, we fight this battle of liberation for these people. That's one of the reasons we were there, weapons of mass destruction. But it ended up being a battle of liberation for those people. Yet now they're saying we should leave. They don't seem to feel that they owe us anything. And none of them that run that country now could live 5 seconds under the leader that they had. So why wouldn't they feel that they should pay America for the loss that we've had? You know, we have servicemen who will be on the public care list from now until they're 80 years old because of injuries that they received. These are our young men that fought a war of liberation for some people that have the resources and won't feel that they should pay us back. It reminds me of situations after World War II where now America owes China. But were it not for the Americans and the British, the Chinese people would probably be speaking Japanese. We defeated the Japanese, well now we owe the Japanese. And you could just go on through. We liberated Italy from Mussolini. And you just could go Germany. We had to fight a war because Germany attacked the world. But we end up here now, 60 years later, we're the ones who are in debt to these people. They never paid us back. That's, in and of itself, is bad enough. But to carry that on now and put additional burdens on our young people and on the future, to me, is a bad choice of priorities. And as a country, we've sat here and we've let other people's logic take over. If you locked you and I in this room and put a barrel of coal oil over there and a barrel of beans over there, which one would be the most important to us if we couldn't get out of this room?
For me, the beans.
Right, and it should be that way for anybody in the world. Why have we set up and let some people make crude oil more valuable than food? The fact that the American farmer is by far the best person to grow food in the world. And yet we've sat here and fed people for free, calling it foreign aid, and then we turn around and we're indebted to these same people because we want to buy some food oil. There's something wrong with our national priorities and how we're looking at the value of our natural resource, which is our biggest, is our farm. And we place them low as we can. We complain about farm subsidies, but all of us want to eat dinner tonight. So we need to reassess our priorities. The foreign aid is in the Department of Agriculture would be two of the ones that I want to serve on.
Okay, those are the commissions that you
That's
would try to
correct.
get on. Okay. So, because you know, when you're in Congress, when you know that you're part of a group, of an organization, so you don't have as much influence over that, you know, as you.
Well, you know how I look at things. Right now, having the opportunity to bring that to the forefront is, to me, just as important as winning an election on March 20th.
Okay.
Because we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about the impact of the long-term impact of this war that we fight. We don't talk about that these young soldiers will eventually be older men with these handicaps, and you'll pass them in some store, and they'll have half a leg and an arm, and you'll just be an old man.
Which
and
is so
we
much
honor them when they first come back, but I'm saying we need to do something as a country. Long term, we need to look at the priorities. How much do they make? How much do we give them? What do we do for them? Because many of them volunteered to go and represent America. And these are young, idealistic Americans. And we sit there and we look at them as though they're some commodity. And then our president goes to another country and apologizes because somebody accidentally burned up some Bibles in Afghanistan.
I'm not running for politics. Don't even.
No, you know, I'm just being real with you. The guys that burnt the Bible.
Apologize, because that doesn't give us the right
then
to go.
apologize for those young men who've been maimed and killed because somebody accidentally burned up a Bible.
Jay's Taylor. But we
Quran,
need to
or whatever.
respect their beliefs as much as we want them
I
to
agree,
respect ours.
and I don't think
and okay, so we want to minimize it and say they accidentally burnt up.
I think they did.
Yeah, like I said, you think, so that gives their people that's over there the same right and liberty to feel that they didn't do it by accident.
Okay, so if in one of these mosques around here, somebody accidentally burns a Bible, then we should run around here as Americans start killing Arabs.
No, that doesn't mean that. There's going to be a reaction and there's going to be a backlash.
That doesn't make it right. I mean, a dog will bite you,
yeah,
and he may not need to bite you. He might need to just go sit down somewhere. So if a person...
But you're going to still be bitten.
Yeah, but you may not need to be bitten. You might be only being bitten because of hatred and ignorance. There is no connection between some Bible or Quran being burned up and killing these innocent people. Remember now, these are people's
From
children.
Our perspective,
these are people's
here,
fathers and husbands. There's no justification at all for killing them because of some paper burning.
Oh.
That is no justification. That's giving too much preference to justify these cruel and barbaric acts against American citizens. I'm not saying that they should have been burned. I'm even saying that we should get them some more. Give them some brand new ones.
But
don't
you're
kill our young
minimizing
people.
their
No,
concern.
I'm not minimizing.
Because you know what? Because the argument could be the same, James, that our young people should have been more careful not to have done something.
So death should be the consequence of making a mistake?
The debate can go on and on as to the reaction. Does the punishment justify the crime? But you cannot minimize the fact that those people felt offended.
I don't doubt
and not so much offended because we do things accidentally to offend people, but they also felt it was done purposely. So, and by you nor I being over there, by us being Americans, we support our troops. We believe in America, so we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it was sincerely a mistake.
Yeah, I have no reason not to.
I know that, but it wasn't your Koran. That doesn't mean they have to take our stance on it. And I truly agree that it's unfortunate that the soldiers lost their life, and they shouldn't have lost their life. I agree with all of that. But I'm gonna let you go on with your platform because then I
don't think that what you're saying is any different than what a lot of people are saying. Mm. But there are just as many people who are saying that killing of our people, if killing of our people is of any significance at all, then where is the corresponding apology from the leaders of that country who would be able to at least in good faith say, yes, our people overreacted. They should not have killed your soldiers because of this situation. There should have been another way. Now, what religion really, and honestly, would justify killing people because a Bible or a Koran or any object was
almost burned? All the religions, because most of the wars are fought over religion.
I'm a Nazarene. We're not about to kill anybody because somebody burned up a Bible. We'll give them another.
And there's a whole lot of Muslims that's going to say that we're not about to run planes into a building because we disagree. So that's not, it's not absolute, it's not 100%. It's unfortunate that our soldiers are being killed. It's unfortunate that they feel offended and wounded, but we are not in a dictatorship, so we cannot dictate how they should feel.
No, I don't think we should dictate how they feel, but they don't have a right to kill Americans. And nobody has a right to kill Americans. And we didn't have the right to
burn up their Quran.
There's a difference between a human body and a piece of paper.
Right. Okay. So what else you gonna do besides? Because that's another whole argument. Because it's not like they knocked on the door and say, "America, come over here." We the one went over there by there now. But we're not gonna talk about that anymore. We're gonna talk about something else.
I'm gonna make it clear. My position as an American is that you should not kill our people.
Right. I agree.
Period.
And we should not kill their people. And we should not burn up their paper either.
I don't think that as a country we are an aggressor. I think that we misplaced our priorities by fighting wars of liberation for people that don't appreciate it.
And who didn't.
And if we had not gone there into the Middle East, then they would be almost all be under dictators. If you go from Egypt and you go around the northern part of Africa, this so-called Arab summer is to try to get rid of these dictators who've been dictating and beating and destroying, similar to what's happening in Syria. You can't have it both ways. Yep. Now, if it's all right for these, if Saddam Hussein's thing was all right, then it should have stayed like that. They should have still been under the bondage of a guy who can call his Senate in and just call off names, and they get taken out into the back of the building somewhere and killed, because that's what he did. His sons killed people just because they liked the way somebody's wife looked. Yeah. Those are barbaric things, and I don't think that any religion really supports that. I think these people have kidnapped, hijacked their religion, those extremists, and they're saying that the Koran says do this and the Koran says, but what does it really say? It's supposed to be a religion of love. It's not anything to do with love when you just start killing people and justifying killing people and putting people in bondage. I look at all people. It's just simple human beings. As a Christian, I do that. Okay. And I respect every religion. But I don't know of a real religion that advocates murder for any cause.
But
that's
James,
most religions forgive.
But that's the thing. We can justify anything and then call it what we want. Because there's enough of them over there that also feel that as the United States, we came over there, quote unquote, and murdered them, including their leader. That, there is no one side to that coin. If
a person wants to live under the leadership of someone like Saddam Hussein,
but they didn't have that option because we went over there and took him out. So obviously they may have wanted to because they were there doing it. So they.
I don't think it was a matter of wanting to do it, because then you can't explain this so-called Arab summer. What are all these people in Egypt and
Well, no,
Lydia, what are
because
they fighting for if they like that situation?
no, because it's not true. Because if they, yeah, but to make their own decisions, they did not want the big brother, big boss, of the United States to come over here, take out our leader, and then tell us to say thank you.
Can I ask you a question? What's wrong with being an American?
There's nothing wrong with being an American.
What's wrong with defending the United States?
Another one. We're not in the United States.
No, I am.
I know, but you're talking about what happened over there. That's not the United States.
Well, it's not the United States when we give our food away to help save and feed these people. It's not in the United States when we protect them when somebody is aggressive against them. We go out of our way as a country. We have a history that we should be proud of. And I know because Barack Obama is the first black president, I know people are overly protecting him.
But how?
Just let me finish.
But how does that?
But that does not justify.
He did not send those soldiers over there.
But he's apologizing. He's apologizing.
He should have apologized.
I am proud as anyone else that we have a black president. But I'm not going to defend him.
If he was white, he
I'm not going to defend him when he's wrong. And he's wrong for not demanding that these people apologize to us, Rhonda.
No.
Our soldiers are being killed. Today there are probably some that are being killed because somebody burned up a piece of paper. And that to me is a terrible situation. And at some point, as an American, I have to speak out. It may not be popular, but I will defend the lives and the right to live of these young men and women. And it saddens me when I go down through a mall or something and I see some guy being pushed in a wheelchair by his child because he done been maimed up trying to help free some people who don't even appreciate, who will spit on him.
Well, what saddens me is the fact that they were sent over there in the first place. I can say I personally, I agree that the president should have apologized, whether he's black or white, he should have apologized. And then second of all, in my opinion, you're minimizing their concern.
No, I'm not minimizing. I'm simply saying that it does not
Because if
require.
someone come over here and burn up a bunch of Bibles or burn our flag, it's going to be some backlash.
Yeah, we're not going to kill them.
You don't know that.
Oh,
you know that.
We've got people
we
who burn
kill
Bibles
people
and
over here.
They
get killed.
People kill people over here for a lot of things.
People kill
but I'm
people.
not going to sit here and pretend like it's equal. Regardless of whatever else we talk about, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I agree that our American people should be killed because somebody burned.
No, they should not be killed.
And I'm not going to say that the President of the United States should not ask and demand the equal response from that country's leaders. They should at least say, we are sorry that our people have overreacted and it has resulted in the death of these Americans. Don't we value the lives of those Americans?
We sure do.
Okay.
And I'll say it. I think our president should have apologized, and since we're not dictators, we can't tell their leaders what they should have done.
No, but you can certainly ask them.
Yeah, you can ask them.
And that hasn't been
And
done.
we don't know whether we asked them or not.
Then why would it be a secret if we asked them? I mean, really, I say protect our black president if that's what we're going to do. But he's going to be accountable, at least in my life. He's going to have.
But James, in the
he's going to be
United
as
States,
accountable
we
as anybody else.
protect our presidents whether they're black or white, though.
You're not protecting.
But we see, the thing is about this whole Quran, the Bible, the burning, apologizing for the soldiers, that goes a whole lot deeper than the president apologized. Because in my opinion, it's just a polite thing to do. Because it wasn't done intentionally, as far as we know. And then you got there's a whole nother debate and conversation we could get in about the United States offended people, intentionally and unintentionally. And you cannot dictate to someone else to accept your apology as it being sincere. That would be the same thing you getting up out of this chair because you disagree with what I said and then accidentally knocking my chair over. It will be up to me to accept whether you accidentally knocked this chair over or whether you did it intentionally because you were angry. We cannot, and then for Mary to tell me, well, Ron, you need to accept this apology. That becomes her opinion.
I'm not speaking of whether somebody should accept the apology.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that the apology probably shouldn't have been made in the way that it was. And I certainly believe that the people who claim to have been offended, who the leaders of their country should certainly be having some kind of remorse for the fact that our soldiers have been killed as a result of that incident.
But what about the fashion that they have over there that believe we should apologize for even coming over there taking their leader out?
Now you're talking about something else.
It's the same
That's
group
a whole
of people,
different,
though.
yeah, it might be the same group of people, but it's not about the same issue. That they are clearly stating they're killing these people because they're mad about the Korans that were burned.
Not because the Korans were burned, because they felt like you're disrespecting their religion.
They feel you disrespected it because they were burned.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's how you disrespect.
They feel that.
Listen, our time is almost up, so
Okay,
you better tell
well,
us.
I'm just not going to let somebody, anybody, if you were my mother,
But you
you're not
better
going to sit here and
tell
tell me that it's all right for these people to be killed, and I agree with it.
Wait.
Because that's disservice, and it is a total disrespect
Okay, you and
for
the
the
two people
families
that
of
agree
the
with
people
that.
that were
You better
killed.
tell these voters what else you're going to do besides that.
Well,
Because you can't go in there and make the people apologize.
no, but I can at least let people know that this is where I'm coming from. Winning is important, but it's not the most important thing. And what we've done and what we continue to do is protect the actions of individuals based on race. And I'm not doing it. No different than Jesse Jr. I can clearly see that in Markham, Harvey, Chicago Heights, Phoenix. There's no development in those communities. Those people have no representation. Should I be successful in the Republican primary, I'm going to go to those towns, and I'm going to meet with the people in those towns, and many of them are going to be Democrats, and I'm going to ask them to look around, not only for themselves, but for their children. Do you want your children to have 5, 10 more years of Jesse Jackson Jr. and the neglect? If you want that, vote Democrat like you've been voting. If you want to see a change, if you want to see some real programs, some real job development, some real advocacy in terms of helping your community grow and become an active and vital part of the 2nd District, the state of Illinois, then give me a chance and I'll show you what can happen when you bring people together.
Okay, you're going to bring those based on what though? Because what do you... Well, you're going to bring that, because are you not saying there's jobs sitting around waiting and Jesse Jackson not bringing them to the community?
No,
so
what I'm saying is that he's
bring?
now bringing to the people any form of development after 15 years. We keep talking about a 3rd airport and 15,000 imaginary jobs. And when you talk to him about a job, he says, and I have him on tape from some of my programs, one job here, one job there won't do any good. We need a lot of jobs. Well, you're right, we need a lot. But to the individual that can get that job over there and take care of his family, and that one over there, and that one over there, and that training over there, those jobs are important. And that's what I firmly believe. That to be an advocate, you can get a lot of accolades by being a better speaker. Certainly Jesse Jackson Jr. looks better than me. And certainly he talks better than me. And that's no different than Obama. Obama's a great orator. And it certainly is the most handsome man in America according to most black women. But what is the fruit of what he talks about? Jesse comes around Kankakee and he talks very good. But when the people try to reach him on the phone, there's nobody to reach but Rick Bryan, and Rick Bryan doesn't return the phone calls. You know, I guess I'm a male chauvinist. I take exception to what happened with Debbie. You treat a woman like a woman, and that doesn't mean I'm a chauvinist. But I will open the door for a woman and let her walk in. I will give her my umbrella. You know, I won't concede if she's wrong. And you know, as much as we argue, you know I'm not going to concede if I think you're wrong. But the fact of the matter is, the 2nd District needs representation. I think I'm the Republican that can go into the black community because I'm not afraid to go into the black community and call it like I see it. You can agree with me or not. As you know, I grew up in the poorest community in the state of Illinois, arguably in the United States, and that's Pembroke Township. But I had a family who had a work ethic. And one of the things that we didn't do, and we still don't do, is we don't give up. And we look at odds against us sometimes as opportunity to beat the odds. So certainly there are odds against a Republican being the congressman for the 2nd Congressional District.
I think that's the least of your problem for going.
No, I'm serious. I think that there's odds against that. But I also think that sometimes on the way to a goal, you can do just as much good in some ways that you don't expect. I think by bringing attention to the lack of representation, I think by bringing attention to the fact that there are things beyond the airport that could be done, I think that it will cause people to think about some things. My view of the airport is that it is environmentally unsound project for that area. It certainly destroys about 150 to 200 years of farming culture. And the people have been invaded. When you talk about invaded, that community was invaded by eminent domain by the state of Illinois, and they had nothing that they could say. Right now in the footprint, in the middle of the footprint of the 3rd airport is built airfield. Have you seen it, the new?
Oh, the guy right here behind you, the press box? I sure am.
Now, this is a deep, which you can see that it's a modern, up-to-date facility.
I think it's nice.
Built in a year as opposed to 15 years of talking about something.
I even contacted McCowan at the time when he was the mayor to ask him how were they able to build an air, and you know this, but to build an airport right there, you know, within walking distance of his home, and then they can't seem to get the Abraham Lincoln Airport off the ground all these years.
Raise some serious questions in my mind.
Yeah.
One of the things I have about the airport, and I've asked Mayor McCowan, who you know we're pretty close friends, but and I haven't gotten an answer from him or Al Penn, who is also a close friend. Who are these financiers? Not the overall name, but who individually are these people that are supposed to be financing this airport? And are any of those people the same people that sat at the table with Governor Blagojevich regarding the purchase of the Obama seat? And I would think that there might be very interesting answers to those questions.
Oh yeah, well that's why there's an ethics probe going on, because I'm sure other people have that same question that they would like for Jesse to answer. There's a lot of questions they would like for Jesse to answer. So, well, one thing for sure, this is interesting. So the people you see, another side of the coin. So it's not just Jesse, the incumbent. And as I try to share with the voting public, normally the seat is for the incumbent to lose, more so than someone else to win. Because everybody keeps saying, oh, I don't think anybody's going to beat him. That's not the news. The news is if someone does beat him. Because when you're the incumbent, you're supposed to have a track record. You have the money, you know, and then you have the respect of a certain population. And then you also have those who are afraid to, you know, go against the status quo. So normally the incumbent is just their seat to lose. So Jesse Jackson, there are several reasons why his seat should be up for grabs.
Can I add this? And this is something that...
Okay, and then Mary, we have an official, we had to hurry up. Okay.
I challenge Jesse Jr. And everyone that's running for office and every elected official in this state and nation to begin to take random drug tests. And I'd be the first one to take it, because until we can start walking the walk, we got to quit talking the talk. We talk to these kids about don't use drugs. You'd be surprised. No, you laugh, but if it's no problem, I challenge them. Take the drug test. I'll take a random drug test anytime. Come, give me one today, come back Thursday, and give me another. And I challenge any of them, and including Congressman Jackson and Debbie.
Most of us can't get Jackson to take our phone calls.
Well, maybe we can get him to take that test. And I'm very serious about it.
You won't be able to get him to take a drug
No,
test.
they need to take it because of credibility. You need to start giving... They hide money so easily. They can hide their money, and they do hide it. They hide it over here, they hide it over there. They cannot hide the results of those drug tests. I challenge them to take them. And you know me well enough to know that I'm challenging for a reason.
Yeah, well, that's a different twist. Well, I would hope, now that's a challenge I would love to see
Okay, then say it.
Like the official take up.
Then you say it too then.
I've never even thought about it.
Well, what are you thinking about it now? What do you think?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean,
well, I challenge too, and I mean everyone.
A little private and a little personal.
And I can tell you who will pass it.
Besides yourself?
I know two people who will pass it besides myself, for sure. Adam Kinsley will pass it because he has to take it to fly those jets that he fly.
Okay.
And the guy that's running in the 79th District, Mr. Nixon, he'll pass it. You know why? He's a sergeant in the Bourbonnais Police Department. Okay. He has to take those tests. The rest of them I got questions about.
Well, I would hope they will all pass it, first of all, because the drugs are illegal. But that doesn't mean anything, because we have voted a president in who it has been well documented that he used drugs, cocaine, over the years, which was also illegal. So I'm not sure what your point would be, but based on...
Accountability.
Well, but we didn't ask the president to take a drug test.
You can take one.
Not this president, I'm talking about the
one
one
prior. Well, we can't go back and make the other one president again, but I challenge this one to take it. What the heck, it should be take a minute. No. He's got a doctor walking around with him all the time. Shouldn't be nothing to take.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with taking it.
I don't think he would either, but he's not the one I'm focusing on.
But it's actually interesting that now you're so concerned about Jesse and current politicians taking a blood test, but...
I can't go back and recreate the arc and all that.
I'm not talking about going back, but the fact that we knew that Bush at the time was... engaged in illegal drugs, had to go to rehab.
Well, I wasn't in Texas when he was governor.
I know, but we knew that. We definitely had reason to know that. And in the media, we definitely knew it. But my point is, you never called for it. That's my point.
You don't know what I called for because I've published for 40 years. But what I will say...
Well, show me an article where you said that Bush should have taken...
I'm not.
Y'all didn't have to read it. Yeah,
what I'm saying is I challenge these individuals.
Okay, and I just want you to send me something where you ever mention that about Bush.
I want you to say that you think that they should take it too.
I totally agree, because drugs, if they have using illegal drugs,
Thank you.
they shouldn't have anything to hide, because they shouldn't be using illegal drugs. And in our community, the last thing we need is for anyone to be supporting the drug.
Now, let me add to that,
Mhm.
because I know your programs will continue and you will do well. I'm going to take one myself at Riverside Hospital and have them send you the results.
Who cares?
No, I'm going to be the first one that does it. I'm running for office. I care.
But nobody's
Americans should care. You write it off because you haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
You laugh about it because you haven't thought about it. What would you want some crackhead out there or some cocaine head representing you?
Plenty of politicians that's on James.
Wait a
Stop
minute,
it.
hold on.
Now we're
Politicians
behind
that
the
what?
scenes. We're
Plenty of
behind the
politicians
scenes with
that
a
what?
lot of politicians. We know there's plenty of politicians that use drugs.
Thank
So
you. That's
we're
my
not
point.
even getting ready
But that's
to go
my
there.
point. Why should they get away with it?
Because they've been doing it for years.
Well, and
And
if we allow things to happen that have been going on for years, you wouldn't have this program. I'd be somewhere working in a cotton field.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Okay.
true. That's
So
true.
let's call it like it is.
Okay, well, this is me, Ms. Rhonda B. from Voices of Mass Discussion. that's why I am so proud to be an American, so that I can sit next to people like James Taylor. And we are not new to each other, so we do. As a matter of fact, just so you'll know, for those who do not know, he owns and operates and publishes the newspaper, City News, out of the Kankakee area, has done it for many, many years. I, too, am a writer and a contributor to his paper. I'm also not a Democrat, but I'm not him either. So, so his views are his own. But I want to thank you, James, for coming out.
Thank you.
And people, please go out and vote your conscience. And that's it. It's a wrap.
Thank you. Thanks, girl.
Jeez Louise.
I better be who's married.
Oh, goodness. Great. Vice versa.